Hi guys, and welcome back to another fly fishing video. So this week what I would like to do is show you 3 methods of presenting buzzers from a drifting boat. So without further ado, let's get into it. Buzzers make up a huge part of the trout's diet, and these 3 methods I'm going to show you today are going to help you better present your flies and help you catch more fish. There are 3 distinct methods that we're going to discuss today: straight line buzzer fishing, bung buzzer fishing, and the washing line. To demonstrate and discuss these methods, I've come back to Rutland water in the middle of April, and this year's buzzer fishing has been stand out, so I'm hoping we're going to have a good day's sport. Now the wind is due to get up a little later in the day, so I want to try and get this knocked out as quickly as possible. Now each of these methods have their own distinctive advantages, and we're going to go through each one in turn and point out the good parts and the bad parts. So let's get started with the first of these deadly methods. Today I've chosen to set up with a 10-foot rod. I've got a very slow sink tip on, and I'm fishing with 3 buzzers. I've got a heavyweight grub hook buzzer on the point at size 10, and I've got 2 size 12s up from that. I'm going to put a little diagram on the screen now of possible setups for the straight line buzzer. Now the reason I've chosen to set up with only 3 flies today as opposed to a 4-fly cast, which is what I would much prefer to do, is the clarity of the water here at Rutland. It's absolutely crystal clear. The fish are going to see your flies from a long way, and what I want to do is have as much space between my flies as possible. As for casting, I don't want to cast straight in front of me all the time. What I want to do is push my fly line out at a 45-degree angle from the boat, like so. A couple of long pulls just to straighten everything out, and then I can steady off into my retrieve.
Let's talk about the advantages to straight lining. For me, the biggest advantage has to be the ability to vary the depth of your flies. Just keeping up with your fly line will ensure that your flies sink all the way to the lake bed. A slow figure of 8 retrieve will impart movement into your flies, and consciously pausing every now and again can result in heart-stopping takes. If you are not paying attention, there is a real danger of being snapped off. Another tactic I like to employ is the long draw. This is simply a long pull of the fly line and again a pause. This brings your flies right up in the water column, and while you pause and just keep in touch, the buzzers start to descend once more in the water column, just like the naturals. In all the methods that I will be discussing today, where possible I want to fish the angles. This simply means I don't want to fish my flies directly to the front of a cast.
Guys, before we move on to the next 2 deadly methods for fishing the buzzer, I just want to pause and take a little bit of time to ask you to consider subscribing to the channel. It is absolutely free and you can unsubscribe at any time. So why don't you go into the bottom right hand corner and just give that little button a tickle for me. I'd really appreciate your support. So the straight line buzzers haven't worked for you, so what's the next option? Perhaps the fish are a little bit higher in the water, so what I want to do is raise my cast up. So what I'm going to do is take off the buzzer that I've been fishing, and I'm going to replace that with a fab. So I'm now fishing a buoyant fly on the point, and I've got 2 buzzers up from that. What I'm going to do next is stick a little diagram up on the screen that will show you other possible washing line scenarios. Where the washing line really scores for my money is when you get into a bit of water where you know it's between 5 and 6 foot. The fab or the booby will slow the descent of your buzzers in that depth of water and give the fish plenty chance to see them. So again, I'm casting out at an angle, couple of long strips, just to get everything straightened out. And then what I'm doing is I'm just keeping up with my line. I'm not retrieving my flies at all actually, I'm fishing the line just round the side of the boat. And every now and again I will just get a long pull in just to bring the flies up in the water.
In my humble opinion, the washing line offers the best of both worlds. Using a fab or a booby to support a team of buzzers, you have the added bonus of having a bit of colour on your cast that can bring fish in to inspect your flies, especially in the clearer water. The fish will either take the colour or opt to munch on your buzzer patterns. If I want to really slow the descent of my flies, I will swap out my super glue or shiny resined up buzzers for something a little lighter, even switch to small dial backs or cruncher type patterns. Depending on where the fish are in the water column, you can fish this method on a number of different lines to great effect.
I watch the rain streak down our window. We never dreamed it'd get this bad. Like a fool I assumed our troubles would just dissipate. Why do we wait to change until it's too late? We're a cauldron on the fire, ready to erupt, with the blood moon sinking over us. But it ain't over till it's over. You can cut the darkness with a flame. A single word can bring you closer. Break the silence with a whisper.
Now, the bung gets a hard time here in the UK, as I'm sure it does elsewhere in the world. I have often heard it referred to as noddy fishing. To me, it's just another way of presenting my flies and absolutely has its place in my armoury. It is not impossible to present static buzzers on a straight line setup from a drifting boat, but it certainly can be difficult if the wind is not kind. In my humble opinion, there is no better way to present a perfectly static fly to fish than a bung. Now, you can fish deeper on the bung using a sliding bung method. I'm not very keen on this myself, but some anglers do swear by it. Here is a couple of the setups I prefer. If you prefer a sliding bung, please let me know in the comments section below how you set it up. I would be very interested.
Now, you don't have to cast your rig very far. You've got to be able to see the indicator. Now, we're in quite a lee of the wind at the moment, so it's nice and calm, and what I want to see is my indicator stick right up in the air. Now, the bung really scores when you're over an area where the fish have had a lot of pressure, and all you might get is a little movement of an inch or 2 inches to the left or right, and then you strike and obviously you're into a fish. Now, that's fishing it completely statically. Another thing you can do, when the buzzers have descended to their depth and your bung's sitting right in the water, you can retrieve with long pulls, which will bring the flies up in the water and allow them to sink back down. And again, this is always a good trigger point, so you've got to be aware when you pause after that retrieve, that's when the take might come. It absolutely does have its limitations. So at the moment, I've got my cast set at 3 foot 3 foot and then 4 foot to my last fly, which gives me an overall depth of 10 feet from my bung to my point fly. So if a fish takes me on the point, I can comfortably land it. Now I can go as far as 12 feet with my point fly, but any longer than that and I'm really going to struggle to land a fish that takes the point fly. And that's where the disadvantage comes. You cannot go any deeper than 12 feet. So when the flies are at their depth, if the fish are not prepared to come off the bottom to take your fly at 12 feet, you really have to change to straight through buzzer fishing. Although it's not everyone's cup of tea and you may not like to do it, simply don't do it. Stick to the fishing that you enjoy. This is always the tricky bit. It's the way to do it, pal.
Didn't damage the ground, did it?
No, no.